For the last several decades, the Pinellas County Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO, has been planning transportation for Pinellas County. The MPO plans improvements to roadways, trails, sidewalks, transit, and for safety and to ease congestion. Over the past several years, the MPO has planned and assisted in funding major roadway improvements like US 19 and Keystone Road. Moving forward, the MPO is working on widening Ulmerton Road, a new connection to Roosevelt Boulevard, the remaining US 19 interchanges in North County, and improvements to Gandy Boulevard. The MPO is also responsible for assisting in the implementation of the Pinellas Trail, improving safe crossings to area schools, and a county-wide intelligent traffic system. Flash forward to today. Today, Pinellas has reached a decision point. The county has developed almost all of its land and has little room for expanding or building new roads. With little space to build new buildings, the county's growth has slowed to a crawl. What growth does occur will occur in our iconic residential neighborhoods and along major roadways. With little space to build new roads, congestion will worsen year by year and will have to continue to widen roads. Pinellas County has also invested little in transit compared to the rest of the U.S., with less than 15% of jobs and people located within walking distance of frequent bus service. Pinellas is a wonderful place to live, but to protect our quality of life, we have to plan ahead. Look at all the transportation options, to imagine new ways of travel, new ways to grow, in order to create a vibrant and prosperous future. This is why there has been a lot of discussion about a new bus and rail system, a vastly improved transit system that provides new, fast, and convenient ways to travel and attracts new jobs and housing while preserving our neighborhoods. This new bus and rail system is the Greenlight Pinellas Plan, a plan that the MPO is part of, a partner with several agencies including the Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority, or PSTA. So why a new bus and rail system? And why now? The money invested in transit has a multiplier effect, with every dollar invested profiting several dollars in return. But this isn't based on research alone. Just look to other cities like Charlotte, North Carolina, and even our neighbors in Orlando, whom are reaping the benefits of transit. Besides the financial gain, transit also helps focus growth where growth should be, in our centers like St. Petersburg and Clearwater, protecting stable single-family neighborhoods in many parts of the county, and protecting the environment. But we believe that we need to listen to Pinellas County residents to truly understand the importance of transportation and transit. For example, listen to what people have been saying about the potential for a new bus and rail system.
It would be nice to have some type of things to get from, other places near downtown to downtown, quicker, not necessarily having to wait for a bus.
I do believe that transportation in terms of buses should be improved, and also some sort of light rail with more gas issues regarding the price and budget restrictions. I do believe that a light rail system should be incorporated somehow.
I drive a big truck. We've got 5 children in our family, and to take the truck out for the day with everyone is a $30 to $40 proposition. And boy, if we could, it'd be nice to spend something under $10 and get everybody somewhere and not have to worry about other traffic, and so that sure would be nice.
For young people who definitely don't really have the money to live downtown but want to get downtown, it definitely is a great option to have light rail and more buses.
We got to look toward the future of the future generations, and that's probably the way to get around, instead of driving in these crowded streets.
The decision to build a new bus and rail system can only be made by Pinellas County residents. Over the past several years, a lot of progress has been made, understanding where new bus and rail can go, what you get for the cost, and how it will support a stronger, more vibrant Pinellas County. What do you think about a new bus and rail system for Pinellas County? We need to hear from you. Join us now for a conversation about this new bus and rail system.
Well, good evening and welcome to the Pinellas Transportation Plan eTownHall. I'm Len Szynski, Public Information Specialist with Pinellas County Communications and moderator for tonight's event. Thanks for joining us. Well, tonight we've assembled an informed panel from the various agencies involved in transportation planning to answer your questions about the future of transportation in Pinellas. Joining us is Sarah Ward, Pinellas County Metropolitan Planning Organization Interim Executive Director. Sarah, hello, how are you?
Just fine, thank you.
Very nice to have you here with us this evening. Next to her is Brad Miller, Chief Executive Officer of the Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority, better known as PSTA. Brad, hello, how are you tonight?
Great.
Absolutely good to have you on the panel. To my left is Julie Bujalski, Dunedin City Commissioner, Pinellas MPO Board Member, and PSTA Board Member. Julie, how are you?
Very good. Thank you for having me.
Oh, very nice to have you with us. And rounding out our panel is Jeff Danner, St. Petersburg City Council Member, Board Chair of PSTA, and Vice Chair of the MPO. Jeff, hello, how are you?
Great. Glad to be here, Len.
Oh, we've got some great people, some great authorities here assembled on the panel tonight. Now, Pinellas County Commission Chair, PSTA Vice Chair, and MPO Board Member Ken Welch was scheduled to join tonight's panel, but due to the recent passing of his father, he was unable to be here tonight. And we send our condolences to the Welch family. Now, before we get to your questions, we'd like to make sure everybody understands how we participate. If you're online, then just send in your questions and comments to the blog on the right-hand side of your screen. If you're watching us on television, you can jump online as well to send in a question, or you can call the toll-free number scrolling by on your screen. We're also calling a random sample of 40,000 residents right now to take part by phone. If you're participating by phone and would like to ask a question for the panel, press 0 at any time. If you simply have a comment, press 7. Now, whatever way you're joining us, keep those questions and comments coming in. Well, we have a lot of questions and comments. They've been coming in all day. I've got my computer open here and we're ready for those questions and comments. But you know, transportation is such a big subject, and I think it means many things to different people. You have people whose ideal form of transportation is for every traffic signal along US 19 to be synced up so they can go north to south without ever have it stopping. You also have the people that envision not having a car at all and taking light rail or mass transit to their work, to their play, to a sporting event. So you kind of have the various extremes when people think about transportation. We got this one question coming, kind of a generalized question, but I think it's a good question to start the discussion, Sarah, and I'll give this to you. It says here, what is the MPO doing long-term for the entire county? Now, I hear that a lot. People want to know how the transportation plan benefits them in their neighborhood, wherever their neighborhood happens to be. And I know the MPO is kind of a big picture, long-term plan for the county as a whole.
Yes, Lynn, thank you for that question. And kind of follow up to your earlier comment, transportation is different things for different folks.
Yes.
For some it is the signalization on the major roadways, and that is a major component of what we're doing. And we're looking at how we can better coordinate traffic signals so that we do get more progression in terms of our roadway projects. And but just looking even at the smaller scale improvements, we're looking at sidewalks, we're looking at trails, we're looking at major expansion of several of our roadways, because we're not looking just to move people, we have to look at moving goods as well. So we look at the interstate system and US 19, US 19 in particular, some areas carries over 100,000 vehicles a day. And you see the major projects occurring right now in the Clearwater area. So the long-term plan is to include that type of improvement on US 19 all the way up to the Pasco County line in terms of roadway projects. We're also looking at transit service countywide and looking at different types of service in terms of transit service depending on the area of the county and the needs of the various communities. So recognizing that it's not a one-size-fits-all. Recently, PSTA has implemented what they're calling flex service in northern Pinellas County, so that's an example of some of the transit service. We're looking for that area, looking at more express service and later service in some of the other areas in southern Pinellas County, and also looking at light rail as an opportunity in other areas of the county. So full range of transportation options throughout the county, depending on the neighborhoods and the needs.
And I know you're also looking at pedestrian traffic and bicycle traffic as important components of the entire transportation picture.
Yes, and I'm sure that most of the residents of the county and visitors to the area are very familiar with the Pinellas Trail, primarily serving the western portion of the county. We prioritized having a loop around the entire county and then east-west connections. So we've built the Pinellas Trail on one side. We're looking at a number of other segments along the other side of the county on the Progress Energy easement, and so looking at that, as well as looking at connections to schools and our parks and universities in terms of bicycle pedestrian access.
Now, Julie, let me go to you for a second here. I understand there's been a lot of public input over the last forever. It seems like forever. People have been talking about transportation, and you've been going out into the community. The MPO, the PSTA has created a number of charrette studies about what people need, what people would like, what would their preference be. And so when there's a big decision coming up in a little bit more than a year here in Pinellas County, you mentioned Project Greenlight as being the focal point of all of this input and all of this research. So give me an idea, a capsulized idea of the public outreach that has happened over the last little while, and perhaps the public outreach that we can anticipate in the months to come.
Well, that's a good question. There have been a number of outreaches through the MPO. A lot of the charrettes have been held in areas. In this transit plan has some area stations, and so they've done charrettes in the areas that the stations will affect neighborhoods, and talk to people about what they would like to see and what the impact on their area would be and the businesses in that area. There have been a number of telephone pole type things done through not just MPO but TBARTA, which you belong to, and they've also gotten public input through PSTA. So I think there's been a lot of ways, there's been a lot of public engagements going to Rotary clubs and chambers and different subcommittees that the MPO has. They've gotten that are citizen advised. Those folks have put in their input on what they think the long range next 40 years should look like for transportation.
And Brad, what are you discovering? What are people, what's the kind of the scent in the wind? How do people feel about transportation in general based on this public input?
Well, yes, as Julie just said, we have been really doing as much as we can to get out to the public. I think I'm getting close to 100 different groups that I've presented the Greenlight Pinellas plan. And I know both Jeff and Julie on the PSTA board have worked very hard also trying to get all parts of Pinellas County to get involved in telling us what they want in their future. Because obviously the plans create the result. Maybe not immediately, but down the road, this is what's going to happen to our community. What we hear is people want to have a growing, thriving community of Pinellas County, and they don't necessarily know all of the technical details of what's best, a bus or a rail or a road or whatever, but they want the best for their community. I think they understand the Greenlight Pinellas plan and what we're talking about as far as investing in transit. And, you know, it's been very, very positive. And the questions I receive are more about, so when is this going to happen? How much am I going to have to pay? Of course, yeah, as you mentioned, we're talking about in a year having a referendum before the county voters for a 1% sales tax that would replace the current property tax the PSTA levies across most of the county. And so they have, good questions on those, but then once you explain that, they say, well, as long as you put together a good plan, that's something maybe Pinellas can support.
And I think that's the key. The more information people get, the more receptive they are to some of these ideas, and the more they embrace the future of transportation.
Yeah.
I want to take a moment to remind everybody at home that now is a good time to blog in your question. If you're on your computer, if you're on the phone and would like to ask a question, simply press 0 at any time, or to leave a comment, simply press 7. That's a good way to communicate to us all by phone. Jeff, I wanted to go to you for a second. Once again, talking about the transportation plan and some of the public input. St. Petersburg is such a major component in the transportation plan, and all the maps that we have seen kind of have St. Petersburg as being an anchor destination, if you will, when talking about light rail. So what do the people of St. Petersburg think about long-term transportation?
I think really what what I hear the most is that we need to give the people, not only in St. Petersburg, but throughout the county, options. Right now, you really have to own a car or multiple cars to get to work, to get to recreate, to get to eat, to get to shopping, all those destinations throughout a county. And what I hear the most is it would be great to have an option other than an automobile. If I could jump on the trolley and go to the Trop, if I could get on a bus and go down to the beach, if I could get on light rail and get to the airport. Those are the kind of things that people are really interested in, is just having options that we don't have right now.
And Julie, we got another question here coming from the blog, and I've heard this a lot about people wondering what about the regional aspects. We talked about TBARDA being the regional transportation authority in this whole area. And let me ask you this. The question is, can I get a bus to Tampa on the weekends? And I know, Brad, the PSTA had a commuter service between here and downtown Tampa. Does that run on the weekends?
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
We only,
okay.
It's a commuter service Monday through
for
Friday.
For people that work. So, well, let me ask you then, Julie, the long-term thinking, does that entail connections to some of the cities and some of the areas outside of Pinellas County?
It does, and that's really important, is to look at this holistically, not just in our county, but how we can connect to other areas. And you know, we are in the process of looking how we can connect to Pasco and to Manatee, but the big focus right now is Hillsborough. And in this plan, we have 3 connections to Hillsborough County that we're planning. One via Hillsborough, one via Courtney Campbell, and one via the Howard Franklin. And they would all take you to a hub that is proposed to be built. And the idea is that that hub would then connect you to other areas, one of which would be the airport. And one of the discussions being had is that, and Brad, please chime in if I say anything incorrect, but what I've heard is that the idea is that you'll be able to go to this hub, buy your tickets or do your check-ins, and go from there right to the airport. And that's going to be something that's going to be really great for the region.
And I know I've seen some of the future plans for TIA to embrace some of this mass transit in their outline, and it's really very exciting, and it's a really step into the future. You know, a lot of people kind of are judging the future based on the situation today, and you know, they think about light rail fitting in smack dab boom the way the system works today. But I think, Brad, that there's a lot of work to be done between where we are now and the time we get to light rail. And I think establishing bus service throughout Pinellas County, improved bus service, is a big major component to get us in that direction. Here's a Bill blogged in, said, yesterday I spent $74 to fill my car. That's a common phenomenon. We all go through that. But it says here the bus system doesn't run late enough to get home from work. Apparently he works late. It's too late to catch a bus, so he has to spend all this money on gasoline to take his car to work. Will there ever be buses running in the middle of the night?
It depends on what your definition of middle of the night is, but yes, I mean, he's unfortunately correct. As Jeff said, there's just really no choice for so many people in Pinellas County because the buses either don't run frequent enough or late enough or on the weekends over to Tampa. We have service throughout the county, but much of it ends at 6 o'clock at night. And they're just, maybe you can get to work or get to the baseball game, but you can't get home. And so this Greenlight Pinellas plan would dramatically change that. All the bus routes would run till at least 10 o'clock, especially those trolley routes and services used by tourists or for entertainment purposes would run later, some to 2 o'clock in the morning. So yes, that's part of providing a choice for people, is you have to be there when they need it.
And from the phone, James has a question on the phone here. He says, what's the county doing in terms of expanding the routes? Now this is kind of an ancillary question. More routes, more stops, later at night, is that all part of the big picture?
Yes, and as Julie said, connections regionally over to Tampa and to the airport.
All right, and will the stops be closer together, or will there be more express routes to take us from point A to point B? Well, we've got our map up there, Brad. If perhaps that visual will help people understand exactly where we're talking about putting these bus stops.
So I think, as Sarah said, it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of solution. We have layers of different types of services depending on the need. Of course, the express routes over to Tampa, but even to the biggest employment area in Pinellas County, in the Gateway Carillon area, where the most number of jobs are now and planned, those would be express routes with a limited number of stops, with park and ride lots, where you drive your car, park, and then you could hop on the bus to get to work, and maybe even have a dedicated lane or run on the shoulder so that you could avoid the traffic.
So Sarah, we're looking at the map here now. Explain what some of those lines and squiggles mean on that map now. How does that relate to what Brad is explaining?
Well, if we look at the North County, I mentioned earlier, so if you look at the North County, well,
All right,
showing the
let's go up
southern
to
part,
North County. There
the
we
North
go.
County.
We're in North County now.
And so you see there, we see a big fat line
Yes, we
across
do.
some of those routes, and that reflects service that was recently implemented in North County. And where you see the wider lines there, it's where PSTA has specifically tailored the service to the North County area, so they will actually deviate off the routes in those areas up to a certain distance to make specific pickups. But that was a service that was determined to be needed in that area. If you look at the purple line along Gulf Boulevard, just coming a little bit further south, that's looking at our shuttle service that would run along all of the Gulf beaches, but then into downtown Clearwater, downtown Dunedin, and further north. We found great demand for that service along the beaches, serving not only our residents and workers from the county, but serving many of our tourists. That is also one of the routes where there is a demand for evening service, because many of them are going to restaurants and entertainment venues and really want to be able to do that without the need to have a vehicle.
And they may have left their cars up north, so
Yes,
it's
and they may
important
have.
that they get around
And
conveniently.
as others have earlier mentioned, one of the things that we hear from individuals is the desire for a connection to and from the airport. So not just for our residents, but also tourists to the area. They'd like to be able to come into the airport, either the Pinellas Airport or Tampa International, and be able to get around without benefit of a car.
And which is the light rail route now with all those lines?
The light rail route goes from downtown Clearwater through the Gator Greatway area, so
Okay,
it's
so we're
a
following it
black
south.
line,
There we
yes,
go.
and then down to downtown St. Petersburg. And what we're attempting to do with that is to connect the three major activity centers in the county. Again, downtown Clearwater and St. Pete through Greater Gateway, but there's also a desire to make a connection to Tampa and Hillsborough County. So you see that dash line would also be rail across the bridge to make that connection.
Now, I hear this from folks, especially folks in North County a lot. Julie, I'll give this question to you. What about the people in North County? How will light rail benefit them if that's the route that we see on the map?
Well, that's where you have connections. You've got, we've talked a lot about bus rapid transit. If you, BRT, if you haven't heard that term before, there will be a number of those routes from mid to North Pinellas that you'll be able to hop on with very, very limited stop. There will be a BRT route right on US 19. So you'll be able to get onto that BRT route and go down 19 and be able to get to that light rail and get where you want to go if you want to go over to Hillsborough.
Well, let's go back to the phone because Peter has a question on the phone. I don't want to ignore these questions here. He says, what studies have been done regarding number of stops per road? And Brad, I might go back to you on this one. Are there studies that are done that allows you to come up with a kind of an ideal number of stops per road when you plan a bus route?
Well, certainly, and that's what PSTA has been doing a lot of, looking at a community-wide bus plan that looks at all the different routes and the number of stops that would be appropriate for each community that we serve, or what would be best. Like I said, in some areas, like a commuter route over to Tampa, which is shown on the map in the green bars, but those probably people are going to drive to the, they have a car, they're going to drive to a park and ride, and then they're going to hop on the bus. Might only be 3 or 4 stops on the entire road. Some of the more frequent local routes might have a couple different stops, maybe every other block. And then the bus rapid transit, the red lines on the map, are highest frequency core routes. They would probably have less frequent stops, but the idea is that those would be enhanced. Maybe you would actually pay your fare while you're waiting at the stop. There might be maybe more like a station feel for that, and then that makes the whole bus route go faster because you don't have to pay and take that time on the bus, and so that speeds up the whole system. Fewer stops, bigger spacing, and a more faster trip to your destination.
And I think that's certainly one of the goals to incorporate it in any kind of a mass transit plan is to get people where they want to go quickly.
Yeah.
So, and all the scientific study, it studies the habits of people and what they expect and how they act and their inclinations. And we take all of that into effect when we plan these very esoteric routes, and that's very exciting. Jeff, I got a question for you over here from the business community. And I'm glad somebody asked this question because this is so critical to the development of Pinellas County. You know, we are totally built out. We saw in the opening video, they're widening roads, building roads, but they're running out of land to even do that. We've got to do something. We're kind of at a tipping point. We have to do something. How will improved mass transportation attract businesses to Pinellas County and perhaps allow people to move from the business centers such as Gateway and downtowns and maybe spread them out in the county a little bit?
Yeah, that's a real big component. And when we look to our studies, the economic development and the opportunities for jobs was a priority. The Gateway area is our largest employment center, and on the other side of the bridge in West Shore, if you can connect those two employment centers with a good transit on the Howard Franklin, you've built the largest employment center south of Atlanta. So if we have something that connects them rather than separates them, it really gives us a competitive edge against Charlotte and Dallas and Denver and all the cities that our businesses are competing for. Younger people don't want to have a car in the suburbs with a lawn to mow. They want to live near the downtown. They want to live near the nightlife. They want to be able to get around, get to work, get to entertainment without getting on the roads and being stuck in traffic for 45 minutes a day.
And I think we see this in some of these northern markets. This has developed into a whole lifestyle for these people, the younger generation, as you mentioned. But they're saving the price of a car, the price of insurance, the price of gasoline. When gasoline goes to $10 a gallon, Julie, that'll be a big benefit. All right, from the phone, Amelia has, she understands connecting the business centers, people going to work and such, but she wants to connect social venues and arts revenues, and she wants the entertainment, she wants her social life. She wants to be able to live her social life through mass transit. Is that part of the big picture as well?
Absolutely, because the main spine of our system with the light rail project goes to the activity centers. That's exactly what it does. It goes to the TROP, it goes to the employment centers, it goes to where the nightlife is. And then the feeder routes, the BRT routes going over to the beaches, to the hospitality industry, really build a network of opportunities for people to get all over the county for whatever it is they want to do.
And yet, Sarah, people still complain that light rail, as they have seen the map, still won't take me where I want to go. People want to get in their car and they want to go wherever they want to go, whenever they want to go, and they want to park in a nearby parking space and get in their car and go home again when it's done. That's the way they do it now, but I'm hearing that in the future, in the not too distant future, they just won't be able to live that lifestyle anymore.
They won't be able to live that lifestyle for all of their trip making. We expect traffic to continue to grow on facilities like US 19, and despite the fact that we're doing the major improvements in that corridor, we still expect a lot of growth there. And so I think if they want to look at options in the future in terms of reduced travel time, with the rail investment, once that's in place, you're not competing with the automobile traffic, and so you have a reliable travel time that you can look to with regard to rail, where you wouldn't be able to do that with the roadway network. The congestion bills, there's no expansion of the roadway. You're looking at slower travel speeds if you're traveling by automobile. But again, we look at, we're trying to provide options, and so we recognize that a majority of our trips still will be made by automobile, that the transit is not the solution for all of our trip-making activities, but it does provide a mobility option. And I think as we go forward in the future, as we continue to grow, Pinellas County is a very small county in terms of its size, 280 square miles. We don't have the ability to expand other major roadways without significantly impacting neighborhoods. So again, as we continue to grow, to maintain that competitive travel advantage, I think you'll see more of a shifting to transit because it will be more reliable in those fixed corridors.
And I can imagine kind of a hybrid community. We still have the suburbs, if you will, the traditional suburbs where people get in their car, they go to the shopping center, but you also have these transit corridors where you're grouping businesses and apartments and restaurants and entertainment venues along this corridor to let people to get where they want to go quickly and efficiently. Carolyn from the blog. Wait a minute, Robert, let's go back to Robert. He's from the phone. Phoned in a question, and he says, why the emphasis on light rail, Brad? He says it's expensive, it's disruptive, it doesn't serve the densities that we have. And I hear that a lot. You know, people are thinking we'll put a light rail down for $6 billion, whatever it costs, and there won't be enough people to ride it. How do you counter that observation?
Well, that's what this is all about, is about creating as a different type of transportation investment, like rail, that can create or have an impact on our community. Just investing more and more in bus transportation does carry more riders, but it does not have the impact on the surrounding land use that a fixed investment like a passenger rail system, like a light rail system, would have. That's what this is about affecting the land use. Just like spending the same amount of money on a road investment like US 19 has an effect on the businesses and the neighborhoods and the land use around that, so will this. And over time, it's been shown in every single place it's been done, the transit-oriented development occurs where you do have restaurants and apartment complexes and condos and different and increased density, because you don't have to have big open parking lots where people have to park their cars, because people can avoid having a car. They can bike to the station, or they can bike to their job, or to the baseball game, or whatever they want to do.
And I think we're seeing this kind of in this big picture look at transportation future, that the light rail, if you will, if we go to light rail, it's not going to be the end of the future, it will be the beginning of the future.
That's
in
right.
Pioneer America, first there were the rivers, and then people settled and built their civilizations around the rivers.
If I could just
Of course.
interject on that, Len, thank you. I think too, what I find really great about this plan is it isn't just about light rail. There's been a lot of study done, and where the light rail piece is where we have the best possible chance of use, because of the jobs that are there and the potential jobs that could be created, and the connection to Tampa, as you mentioned. The additional great thing about this plan is we have so many other choices, as you mentioned, from trolleys, from smaller buses and connector neighborhood services, from frequent lines to bus rapid transit. I mean, this plan, 65% of it is going to improved bus and trolley type services. And that's the big part of this plan. It's only 45% or 35% going to rail.
And certainly that's a benefit that people could enjoy right away.
Absolutely.
Within the space of a year or two.
Absolutely. And the thing that you all mentioned earlier about the arts and the entertainment, we found in the North Coastal route of the trolley that got put together about 3 years ago, it has been a huge success because it was nights and weekends, and it took you to the fun places you wanted to go. Well, this plan is going to be adding even more of that, 7 days a week. You're going to be able to hop on a trolley in certain areas where it's going to make a difference. So yeah, you're going to have a lot more access to all the fun stuff that you want to do.
All right, we want to remind our audience, if you're on the phone and would like to ask a question, just press 0 at any time, or to leave a comment, press 7. All right, we got a question from the blog from Carolyn, and Sarah, you mentioned this, but Julie, let me get your take on this right now, kind of a different point of view. Carolyn says Pinellas hosted 4.5 million overnight visitors last year. I believe that's true. How will this plan, she says, serve our #1 industry? And we touched on that, so explain just a little more how this would impact tourism.
Well, I think it's going to, I will never forget this. I was at Dunedin City Hall, outside the front of City Hall where there is a bus stop, and there was a young couple, or I'm sorry, an older couple standing at the bus stop asking me when was the bus going to come. They were visitors, never been to Florida before, and I went and got a bus schedule for them, and it was going to be like an hour and a half later. And it was really clear to me, this was a number of years ago, it was really clear to me that our folks can't, that come visit us, have to get a car, and they have no way to get here. Again, hence the North Coastal Route trolley. We partnered with folks down in downtown, or in Clearwater Beach. Now people from Clearwater Beach who come visit, they get to get out of their area. They want to stay on the beach, but they probably want to get away from the beach at least a day out of the week they're here. People come here from, they come to Tampa Airport or St. Pete Airport, they're going to have a way to get to their hotel. They're going to have a frequent bus service, or a frequent trolley service, or a train service, or use of all three to get where they're going to want to go. They're going to have access to the Trop. They're going to have access to the art museums and the various downtown areas. And it is going to run at night and on the weekend, which we all know, we've heard, empty buses. We don't want empty buses.
Yeah. Well, I understand that, Brad, one of the most successful routes that PSTA has is that beach trolley, taking people back and forth to beach destinations.
Oh, yeah. And one thing, and Julie described it perfectly, but the one thing we can't get any more of is our beautiful beaches.
Yeah.
And we are building and developing that as best we can, but there's just no parking, or there's no way to expand parking along the beaches. So how are tourists supposed to get around? They are using especially during spring break, that Suncoast Beach trolley that goes up and down Gulf Boulevard. And this plan, the Greenlight Pinellas plan, does dramatically expand that.
The appeal is there. All right, let me make a correction to myself. I kind of misspoke. Sometimes I get all excited about things coming up in the future, and I misspoke. I misspoke the cost for building the light rail project here, and we have a lot of facts and figures here in the studio. And Jeff, correct me, please. How much will it? It does not cost $6 billion to build a light rail. How much will it really cost?
No, it does. Here in Pinellas County, our study showed 1.5 to 1.7 billion. And what that does, it builds the 24 miles of rail. It buys the buses needed to expand the system by 65%, run it later at night, and operate it for 30 years. So it's the capital investment, it's the bus investment, and the operating cost for a full 30 years.
So there you have it. So I'm the communications guy, I'm not the transportation guy, so don't believe anything I say. All right, from the blog, another question, and we've touched on this, but once again, these are the questions that people want to know. If they don't live here's one place, I don't live near the rail line, so why should I support this? Once again, how will it affect these far-reaching neighborhoods? How will it affect somebody that lives in Terra Verde, Sarah? Somebody who lives in Tarpon Springs. This is a county-wide benefit, and it will affect all of us at some point in time, according to the big picture. But how can somebody take ownership if they live remote from any of these bus lines or light rail lines?
Well, I think as Julie said earlier, the light rail line is really only a small piece of the overall package. The enhanced bus service is a larger piece. But even for those individuals who don't live near the rail line but like to enjoy the service, so if you're down in Terra Verde, you can easily access the service through coming into downtown St. Petersburg. So from Terra Verde to downtown St. Petersburg, we're talking on the interstate, 10-15 minutes to get there. You can get access it there, can access at gateway areas. So we are looking at park and ride lots to serve the rail line in terms of individuals who need to drive to get there, or they might be able to take a bus to get to the actual rail line. So with looking at all of the modes together, you'd be able to make that trip. Some individuals like to bike. So we'll be looking at the bicycle and pedestrian access also to the rail line, and all of that's also included in the overall cost that we've identified for implementing the project. So I think, again, we want to emphasize that you look at all of the improvements as a part of a package.
So if you go outside your front door and beyond your front lawn, there is a benefit there for you somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Some type of benefit.
Yes.
I think that's important because just like go back to the trolley, there's not a trolley everywhere in Pinellas County, but because everybody doesn't live on a trolley line, doesn't mean you don't do the trolley line. You're looking at what's right for that area.
Right.
And that's the great thing about this plan. And some people I've heard say, well, we're not a Charlotte, we're not a Dallas, we're not one of those places. No, we're Pinellas County, and we've looked at it in a way that says what's right for the neighborhoods in Pinellas County and for the residents there as well as the tourists, because we do have a unique demographic. So a rail line in St. Pete Gateway area may not be right for Tarpon Springs to Dunedin, but we've tried to put what's the right transportation in the right area and have it all connect.
And we have so many unique communities, Jeff, from St. Petersburg at the one end of the peninsula to Safety Harbor, Oldsmar. They're very, very unique. They're very picturesque. They have their own personality. And it's really gratifying to hear that you all are studying each of these complexions, if you will, so that the right solution fits the right situation.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not proposing to change anybody's community. Really, what this does is protects your community. It'll give us the chance, not us personally, but this community the chance for redevelopment to occur where it needs to occur, on the underutilized corridors, in the activity centers, in the employment centers. That protects the neighborhood. Currently now, our most frequent routes, 14% of the people live near those frequent routes. This new expanded plan, 80% of the people will live near a frequent bus route, which can take them into those activity centers or out to the beach and give you those options. It might be a trolley that circulates around Safety Harbor. It might be like the coastal line that runs up and down the west end of the county. It might be a bus rapid transit that goes down 4th Street as quickly as we can make it. It's really looking at the uniqueness of the community and responding to it.
So it's not just one solution. There are a number of solutions, and they're all going to fit pretty nicely from what I understand. All right, going back to you, Brad, from the phone, Sharon wants to talk turkey here. She wants to talk about money. So let's bring up the subject and explain it very thoroughly. PSTA, the bus service, they get money three different ways, if you will. Ad valorem taxes is their basic funding area right now. They get money from bus fares. Perhaps in the future, they might get money from a 1% sales tax if the referendum goes through. What's the difference in those three sources of funding?
Okay, well, basically right now the PSTA bus system is we have about a $60 million operating budget, and we get a little bit more than half of it from the property tax, about a $0.75 mil property tax, about 25%, which is a pretty high number compared to other systems, from the fares, and the rest comes from state and federal grants. Under the new plan, the property tax throughout Pinellas County goes away, goes to zero, and depending on your home or business, that could be as much as more than $100 in savings to your family, and is replaced with the 1% sales tax. What that allows is us to have this whole new type of transit system throughout the county. Probably grows our total operating budget from the 60 we have today to more than probably about double that, about 120. With, again, as I said, most of the money going toward the improved bus system throughout the county. But then we would still have fares and still get grants, so it would be capitalizing on that additional investment.
And a lot of people wonder, why don't fares support the bus system? But I understand that there's no bus system in America that can rely solely on fares to
There's no
sustain
transportation
itself.
system, no matter what you have. Even roads, which some folks say are funded by gas taxes, are only about 50% supported by gas taxes. There's no transit system in the world that is funded entirely by fares. But even if you look at the airports, they were paid for by taxes, and that's just the facts of transportation.
Yeah, sure. Okay, back to the blog. Somebody says here, how are you considering seniors and us that will become elderly in the next 10 to 20 years? Well, speak for yourself, young lady. But let me ask you that, Sarah. What are some of the provisions built into the long-term transit plan for senior citizens?
In addition to the major fixed route service and the rail service, we do also offer demand responsive service, and I think the flex service, where they're able to deviate off the route and make more direct connections to individuals in certain communities. So we are looking at our senior populations and getting input from those individuals as to what they see their needs to be. Some of it has to do with the land use. Looking at providing services in the communities where individuals live, so there's not as much of a demand for major transportation trips if some of those services are provided in their own neighborhoods and communities. So we're looking at a number of ways so that individuals can age in place, so to speak, and still be viable in the community in terms of getting around.
That's so very, very important because well, I know I have an elderly mother and she had to give up her car. Now she has family to drive her around, but a bus stopping, in front of her condo, in front of her apartment would be just ideal. And perhaps
I think the statistic that I've heard about that is that we, on average, outlive our ability to drive with modern medical technology by 7 years. So how are we going to be able to get around when we're older, or the folks?
Well.
And once again, it's good to know we're planning for that inevitability.
Florida has such a high saturation of folks 65 and older, and I just went through the same thing with my parents. I lost them both, but they both were unable to drive. And if they were, just because you can't drive doesn't mean you can't walk down your street. You're not necessarily disabled. You just maybe your eyesight's affected, and so to be able to get on transportation or have transportation that is ADA compliant, or transportation that will pull up in front of your door without, being Medicaid subsidy type, like these flex service, is a huge advantage to our senior population to get them out of the home. And that's what we have all talked so much about, how important it is to keep folks from withering away in their homes.
Absolutely, that is so important. Once again, we have to have a
we are
public.
The great retirement
we
state.
have to have a public transportation system that's going to accommodate the public, all the public, every aspect of the public. And one aspect of the public are people that are bicycling around Pinellas County. We certainly do advocate that. We love it when people leave their cars in the garage, take their bikes to work, to shopping, wherever they go. So let's see, Jeff. I haven't heard from you in a while, but let's talk about bus rapid transit and light rail carrying bicycles. How will what we envision for the future? How will it accommodate bicycle riders?
Well, we do that now. Every one of our buses has a bike rack on it, and it's one of the fastest growing populations in the system is people riding their bikes, putting them on the buses to get to work, and then taking them off and riding them. They're full all the time, so we have to put bike racks at every shelter now. You integrate that with not only the Pinellas Trail, but countywide throughout the entire network of bike trails and side paths and recreational trails. It gives people those options, and now you can meld those options to bike ride to the stop, take the bus, take the light rail, and then have a bike. We're also looking at bike sharing programs, car sharing programs, things like that that really give people the options they need to move around the county.
You know, we've talked about transportation being a regional endeavor, and indeed it's good that we look beyond, even though we're surrounded by water and we're kind of isolated, we need to look beyond our geographical confines to our neighboring counties and work in partnership with them. So Jeff, let me ask you this question once again from the blog. Well, does any of what we do in Pinellas County, is any of that dependent on what they do in Hillsborough County or in Pasco County or any of the other counties?
Yeah, we're working with them all the time, and I sit on T-BARTA, that's a 7-county region. We have a master plan that includes all the plans from those counties and how to interconnect them. And really the main spine of that plan really goes from USF Tampa to USF St. Petersburg. And along that line is all your employment centers, its population centers, the Howard Franklin Bridge, and the universities. So you start to develop those county lines. In the North County, a lot of the congestion in North County is so many people in Pasco County leave Pasco County to work in Gateway and Tampa, and that's what clogs up McMullen Booth and US 19 and the roads to the North County. So we're looking at our bus rapid transit routes not only serving the North County, but then connecting to Pasco to give them options to commute through our county.
And I'm impressed by the number of people that work for Pinellas County government that live in Hillsborough County, that come over here, commute every single day to come to work here. Boy, they could sure use some bus rapid transit from Hillsborough.
The Howard Franklin Bridge used to be everyone drove from Pinellas over to Hillsborough to go to work, and the other side of the bridge was empty, and then it reversed coming back. Right now, it's about 50-50. Close to 160,000 cars a day going over that bridge, and it is balanced in the morning, half going to Pinellas, half going to Hillsborough, and the opposite coming back.
Sarah, how long will it all take? You know, we dreamed this dream. We're looking about this vision of the future. We have to start now because it's going to take many years to realize. Number one, how long will it take? Will it ever come to an end? Will it change along the way, the vision?
Well, certainly in terms of our plans, we're always looking many years out, because to just go from concept to implementation in terms of projects takes a number of years. So our plan looks out 20 years. We're looking out right now to the year, or more than 20 years, we're looking out to the year 2040. And because of the revenue streams, we don't always have the money up front to do all of what we need to do. So we look at a phasing plan based on the priorities, and a number of things may go into that prioritization in terms of looking at areas highest demand, but it is a long-range plan and long-range vision. And as we talk about the bus and rail as an example, we talk about in the early years, in terms of implementation, we'd be looking at significant expansion of the bus network. We may be looking at rail sometime around or after 2020. And so the plan again goes out to 2040. We'd be looking at phasing projects, not just the transit projects, but also the highway and trail projects based on the revenue streams. And sometimes it's just the timing that it takes to complete a project. If you think about the US 19 in the Clearwater area, that project started in 2009. Its scheduled completion is sometime in 2014. And so many of the more complex projects just take a long time to build. And frankly, that was some of the feedback that we were receiving as we did some of our outreach. So a big part of educating the public is it does take a very long time with some of the more complex projects, but again, we look at how we can phase these as effectively as we can.
You know, we got a little bit of a surprise in the last census, where we saw that the population of Pinellas County, despite all the predictions that it would increase to nearly 1 million people, it actually declined a little bit, according to the official tally. What can we expect 10 years from now, 20 years from now? Where will the population of Pinellas County be in 10 or 20 years?
Well, we're looking at, you know, that trend changing a bit. What we're experiencing over the last several years, especially leading up to the 2010 census, was just the change in the economy. We lost a lot of construction jobs and other things in the state of Florida, and particularly in this area, so at a very inopportune time, at the time that they're doing the census. But we're already seeing that trend come around. So we're looking at, again, more growth in employment and population. And as we mentioned, an investment in the communities such as this in terms of transportation investment attracts some of those citizens and jobs that we want to come to this area. So we're looking at this as being a major strategy in that regard in terms of turning around those numbers.
And we have to talk about that. Brad, you mentioned the word density. You know, it's not a dirty word. If you do it right, it can be it can be beneficial to the economy. It can be beneficial to the quality of life in Pinellas County if you do it right.
That's right. If you plan for it ahead of time and put it where it can be handled, and not necessarily just have it develop where we want to preserve our neighborhoods, where people want to live in single-family homes. You don't
Leave
need
them
to.
alone.
Exactly.
Leave them alone and plan along these corridors, and that makes perfect sense.
Before I came here, I worked in Charlotte, and they passed a sales tax, just like we're talking about in 1998. So we're 15 years later. Who is riding the rail that they built and the buses? Not the people that voted for it, probably. It's their kids.
Sure.
They used to move away. Now they're moving back. How is Pinellas County going to compete with other areas without a transportation system that can get our kids to move back here?
And you know, it's funny, talking to people, everybody wants us to turn the clock back to whenever it was they moved to Pinellas County. If it's 1950 or it's 1970, they want everything back the same way it used to be when they first moved down here, but you just can't do that. You have to look to the future.
I just want to add to that. One of the things I've observed just over the last year or so, particularly in the St. Petersburg area, was just the number of multifamily projects that are underway in terms of apartment buildings and townhomes. And so we can see the demand there for new residential units. And so again, I think you see the trend changing already. In my commutes along Seminole Boulevard, major projects there, major projects in the gateway area of St. Petersburg and downtown, and really just throughout the region. So I think you're seeing that turnaround already.
From the blog, Carol, you know, we talked about the public, we talked about older people, special accommodations for senior citizens, Julie, and she says, what about people with disabilities? How ADA is the new transportation system going to be?
Everything will be ADA compatible, everything. We got to see a bus rapid transit type of a bus in Clearwater maybe a year ago, I think, and it was really cool because in some areas that were accommodating folks with wheelchairs or the scooters, the chairs actually, the bus chairs were actually able to just slide right out and you could slide right in, and it was really simple. So everything will be ADA compliant.
That's great. That's great. Once again, make it as easy as possible, as convenient as possible. We want people to enjoy riding the bus, riding mass transit. Jeff, question from the blog. Another one. We're kind of reaching the end of our hour, so I want to get to some of these. Pinellas County, Tampa Bay area is notoriously tough on pedestrians and bicyclists. And a lot of cars, a lot of people, a lot of bicyclists, sometimes they don't mix with tragic results. But I know MPO, Sarah, and a lot of the organizations are really enhancing the safety of pedestrians and bicyclists now. What about the future? With the new mass transit system that you envision, how will the safety of pedestrians and cyclists fit into that new plan?
It's a priority throughout the county to change that reputation for the number of pedestrian and bicycle fatalities we have. And you can see it all over the place with the enhanced crosswalks, with the countdown signals, with the flashing beacons. And really the more we get people out trying to walk and bike ride, it raises that awareness. And it certainly gives that opportunity to just slow people down, allow for pedestrian activity in that roadway. So it's not a raceway on every single corridor in our city. To kind of define those, which ones are the slower corridors, there'll be transit corridors, pedestrian friendly, and which ones are the more automobile and express routes. So it definitely is in the plan for safety to be a major function of this system.
And I see that even today. I see more of the yellow pedestrian crossing signals. I see more bike lanes on the major roadways, so that's really, really great. Brad, let's talk to you for a little bit, because we just talked to you about taxing, the tax as a funding source, taxes being a funding source to support these new endeavors. What about private investors? Is there an opportunity for private investors to become partners and enter into this mix?
Yes, I mean that's certainly a key. I think Jeff maybe talked earlier about the business community of Pinellas County and trying to support them, and they're at least from my take of it, is they've been very supportive of this initiative, about how they think that this will help their businesses grow. They can expand their businesses. They can attract new jobs. So they'll be certainly investing in Pinellas County if we put this catalyst in place. But it's certainly along the way we're looking at maybe ways to deliver this project. Maybe we can do some sort of innovative contracting so that the rail is built and designed and operated even by a private consortium of groups. Right now, PSTA contracts out about 10% of its service, either some of the trolleys and our paratransit service. We would continue to look to the private sector to help out with this.
And does this happen elsewhere in America? I mean, we're not inventing the wheel here. I mean, this sort of model operates successfully all over this country.
Oh yeah, I mean, right now there are, I believe, 26 transit cities in the United States that have invested in a multimodal transit system like we're talking about, where they have bus and rail and other options. And of the 26, 25 of them have found it to be so successful that they're actually expanding it. They're adding new lines or expanding it into different areas. There's not places that have said, well, this has been a failure, and so we don't want to do any more of it. It's been a success.
It's been a success, and it will be a success here, so I'm told. Jeff, we have a question here about southern South St. Petersburg. You know, we saw that the rail line, a lot of those squiggles go through St. Petersburg, down to St. Petersburg. How will this impact? How will this impact the economy of St. Petersburg, especially that Midtown area down there?
That's a good question, and it really is going to help not only South St. Petersburg and St. Petersburg, again, like we've talked about, the whole county. What are the needs of the particular neighborhoods? Where are the people that live in those neighborhoods going to work? Are they hospitality workers on the beach? Are they working in the gateway area? And all those things are factored into the bus network, the supporting network, to get you to whatever your destination is with whatever mode of transportation we can provide.
Absolutely.
So it is a factor. It will be considered along the way, and that's what Brad and the staff and the PST board is going out and listening to those people and listening to where you live and what it is you need and how we can help to accommodate that.
A lot of benefits. Once again, we've been talking about benefits here all night long. We've had a lively discussion, and it's really, really been great. We've shared a lot of good information. Brad, one of the final questions coming in says here, are you looking at putting stations along I-275? That's a good question. Are you?
There's a couple of stations on I-275.
Really? Yeah.
As you leave.
Special exits or what now?
Well, the proposed rail stations along the alignment as it leaves downtown St. Petersburg and goes past Tropicana Field. There's a stop right there at the Trop. It does go along the alignment of I-275 with a couple of stations that you'll be able to access either parking lots or there'll be pedestrian overpasses to hook into the station. Then, of course, up along, of course, it'll go through I-275 over to West Shore and to Tampa.
I guess one of the challenges, even because Pinellas County is so densely built out, is just finding land for a linear transportation corridor. That's kind of been a challenge for you all.
That's true, and that's one of the advantages of using the existing interstate corridor, because the median is there. We're also taking advantage of some of the freight rail tracks, the CSX corridor and downtown St. Pete and up in the Clearwater area, to try to look at that for our alignment. But yes, it is kind of a challenge to find a linear corridor.
So I-275, Sarah, and real quick, let me get your take on this. What about the Howard Franklin Bridge? When that thing is replaced, and bridges do get replaced every now and again, how will the look of that change to accommodate mass transit?
That's an excellent question. We're looking at that right now in partnership with the Department of Transportation. They have been looking at the replacement of the northbound span in terms of the Howard Franklin Bridge. And so we're working with them to see how transit can be accommodated as a part of that process. One of the things that's been looked at is, as they looked at the replacement, they'll have to build a temporary facility perhaps while the new bridge is being expanded, and looking at the possibility of that temporary facility being used for rail and in the short term perhaps for express bus or express lanes. But that study actually is underway, and it was a big part of our effort is working with the DOT to make sure that transit is accommodated in that corridor.
Absolutely. You know, the future is so exciting, and we've shared so much good information here tonight, and I know people watching at home, they've got to be excited about being a part of this in the next 10, 20 years, as you said, Sarah, to come. Well, we have had quite an evening. A lot of questions here, a lot of great questions. Want to thank all the panel members. To my right, Sarah Ward, MPO interim chairman, executive chairperson. So thanks for coming. And a lot of good information, Sarah. Absolutely glad you were here. Brad Miller, chair of PSTA.
Thank you.
Absolutely the authority on things rolling along on the wheels of the bus, so it's great to have you here on the panel. Julie from Dunedin, City Commissioner Dunedin, also on the MPO, also on PSTA. A lot of good information. Thanks for your contribution.
Thank
It's
you for
really been
having
great.
us.
And Councilman from St. Petersburg, Jeff Danner, also on the MPO, also on PSTA. A lot of great wisdom and a lot of great experience and a lot of great thinking goes on at these organizations, and I thank you all for sharing that with us here tonight. And we want to thank you for joining us this evening. We appreciate your participation. Now, the MPO eTownHall blog and phone lines are now closed. If we didn't get to your question or comment, you have multiple ways to contact us. You can join the online conversation at telluspinellas.com and submit your ideas and comments online. If you're on the phone, leave us a message at the end of this call or call area code 727-346-8448 and leave a message. You can also visit the MPO's website at pinellascounty.org/MPO or PSTA's website at psta.net for more information about transportation improvements planned for Pinellas County. Also, you'll be able to watch this event again and view all of the images and videos you saw tonight on the MPO's website. Again, that's pinellascounty.org/MPO. The link will be posted just as soon as possible. Well, thanks again for joining us. On behalf of the entire panel, I'm Len Szynski. Have a great evening.